Welcome to the Ohio AgNet podcast. I'm Matt Reese. I'm the editor for Ohio's Country Journal, joined down there on the end by the fantastic Dusty Sonnenberg with Ohio AgNet and Ohio's field leader. And today we welcome Larry Davis and Elizabeth Long with Ag Resource Management. Thanks, guys, for being with us. We're getting ready for the Farm Science Review. Are you guys excited?
We are. Yep. It's something I always look forward to every year. How about you, Larry?
Oh, yeah, always.
And it looks like we got some beautiful weather in store. Yeah. I think 72, 75 the first couple days, maybe 80 towards the end. That's pretty good weather. Doesn't look like a lot of rain either.
Yeah. We cannot complain with an 80-degree day at the Farm Science Review. It shouldn't be stifling hot as long as we have a nice breeze.
Right. And this, to me, guys, is pumpkin spice coffee weather.
Here we go.
I had my wife made me a delicious pumpkin spice coffee that I drank on the way in today to the Farm Science Review. And it's delicious. I really love the pumpkin spice. It's that time of year.
It is that time of year.
Yeah.
And what's the ingredients of pumpkin spice?
You know, we talked about that. So there are 4 ingredients to pumpkin spice. And if you can come up with those 4 ingredients, email Matt Reese so he can make his own pumpkin spice.
And one hint, pumpkin is not one of those.
That's correct.
Right.
That's correct.
But it's delicious nonetheless.
It is. If you are into pumpkin spice, it is really good. And Matt is clearly into that. So,
and along with being pumpkin spice weather, it's National Cheeseburger Day. What else did we decide? Bamboo Day.
Bamboo Day. And you've said that you guys, since it's not an insurable crop, bamboo is not typically an ARM product.
It is not. Yep. No. Yeah.
It's good to know.
So we're limited to what's an insurable crop. Yep.
So the Ohio Bamboo Association is going to have to probably not be our sponsor for this.
Probably not.
We'll have to celebrate with cheeseburgers instead, right. I think. Since, it's that day.
It is.
Dusty, before we get going too far, we got some audio coming up we want to share. What do we got going on today?
We do. Our team has been out and about this week, as they are every week. And Dale Minyo was out at the Waterman Farm with Ohio State doing some interviews about the Grow Next Gen program. It's some really neat outdoor education opportunities that they have there, developing curriculum for Grow Next Gen. Also, our own Joel Panorwood was out over in Mercer County. It is silage chopping time for corn silage, and he caught up with the Van Tilburgs and MVP Dairy, and some audio coming from that. And busy time out there all across the state as choppers are gone, trucks and tractors on the road hauling that silage back to the pile to get stocked in.
In early reports from some of that silage it's generally a pretty good crop, but we are seeing some leaf diseases creep in. Are you seeing some of that up in Northwest Ohio? I've been hearing about tar spot and some other things in corn that are maybe a little bit of a concern.
Yeah, it really seems to be patchy from the guys that I talk to, and it's some varieties have it more than others, and some locations have it more than others. So I think it's something that, depending on what the variety is, and also if they sprayed or not, or if they sprayed multiple times, even in some cases, how severe it might be.
And the other thought process there is, in many cases, a lot of those leaf diseases are coming in a little late in the season. Now that corn is behind, so there is reason for concern in some fields, but for the most part, it looks like it's coming in a little late and not going to be a major issue, even for silage, but also for field corn. Not a big problem. What are you guys hearing about the crop condition out there around the state?
Well, I think it's pretty good. I mean, I think there's certainly some areas that have gotten more rain than others. And the ones that have gotten a lot of rain, the crops look really good. But even in areas where it hasn't been quite as wet or quite as much moisture, I mean, we still have some really good crops out there overall.
You know, it's interesting, as Larry mentioned, the crop is pretty good in Ohio. And oftentimes this time of year, we're talking about the crop out west or up north. Right. Rarely does Ohio enter the national discussion in terms of what our yield potential is compared to other parts of the country. But this year, it really does seem to be more of a focus on what Indiana and Ohio may be able to provide to offset some of the lower yields out west.
And Ohio does have a good looking crop, both corn and soybeans. And we saw that in our crop tour, and the other crop tours have been seeing good results in Ohio as well. So it'll be really exciting here in a week or two when the combines really get rolling out there to see what that crop is. Now, Elizabeth, we talked a little bit ahead. It's crop insurance time for wheat. What do people need to be thinking about with regard to that?
Well, if they're planting wheat, we need to make a decision on what kind of coverage they're going to do. If they've had wheat in the past, they'll be able to, it'll continuously it's a continuation policy. So if they're going to make any changes, the other thing is margin protection. That's a discussion to be had with the input costs not really coming down much, right? We're seeing some reduction in, fertilizing chemicals, but the seed cost is still going to be there. So you're going to have to look at that if margin protection works for you. Our thought is on margin protection, it's going to work for some. It's not going to be a fit for all. So talk to your insurance agent on margin protection as well.
Well, the wheat market in particular, the last couple of years has been very up and down, and
Yeah.
it's of course down a little bit now. But with things going on around the world, it's hard to say what's going to happen with wheat.
Right. If you've got the ability to plant it and harvest it and get it shipped to a local elevator, I think it makes sense to maybe look at doing wheat.
Yeah,
Well,
and more folks are thinking about it.
Mhm.
And here in Ohio now, there's changes to the H2 Ohio program. Wheat can be planted, and either whether it's an overwintering cover crop or when you harvest from grain, they've sort of changed the classification of it. So that even makes it a little more advantageous if
Sure.
guys want to put it in the rotation.
Yeah, and H2 Ohio is set to start rolling out beyond the Lake Erie watershed, and that's going to be important for wheat statewide, I think, too. Moving forward, opens up those opportunities for manure application and some other definite water quality benefits there. So definitely a lot to think about with wheat, and it'll be interesting to see how the acreage shakes out this year. It's been up a little bit. It'll be interesting to see what it does this year.
Elizabeth mentioned crop insurance with the wheat, but crop insurance and some other deadlines coming up too. And as we have farm bill discussions going up and a lot of people heading to Washington, D.C. on the Hill to lobby for the farm bill, that's probably the number one talking point in agriculture is make sure we preserve crop insurance within the farm bill. First of all, we need to get a farm bill passed, but then the crop insurance is probably priority number one and very important for your guys' operation.
Yeah. So we make our lending decision on crop insurance and the crop insurance level of coverage in which a grower has. So for us, crop insurance is very important. It should be important in all operations as well. I would say probably 90% of all farmers in Ohio carry crop insurance. So I feel like that's important anyway. But yeah, I think our consumers need to understand the importance of crop insurance because of the subsidies that we get from that. I mean, it would be a practice that we couldn't afford if we didn't have, that government subsidy through that farm bill.
Absolutely. An important part of food security really nationwide and also
Absolutely.
stabilizing the economy in agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Now, Larry, we also, I think, would be remiss if we didn't talk about these interest rates. We've talked about it before, but it's a game changer in terms of managing farm costs and operating loans and so forth. What are we seeing now with these higher interest rates, and how are folks managing that?
So if we go back, probably 15 months ago, if an operation was borrowing about $1 million to operate on, they would probably be spending somewhere between $30,000 and $40,000 a year in interest expense. Today, that number, based upon what rates have done, that number is probably going to be upwards of $80,000 to $90,000 of interest expense. So that one particular input, if you will, has literally doubled in cost. And unlike other inputs, fertilizer, chemicals, some of those things, I don't know that we can say that's going to go down anytime soon. I mean, it's elevated. Some of our other input costs we're definitely beginning to see go down a little bit, but that's one that is, I think, going to be pretty stubborn and hang in there quite a bit. What goes along with that is, if a farmer has a crop that's harvested in the bin and he owes money on that crop, he's really got to take a hard look at how long he's going to keep that crop in the bin and not sell it, because the longer he keeps it in the bin, the more interest cost is going to accumulate on that crop. So he's easily looking at 10 or 12 cents a month that he's got to recover in a price increase, basically just to break even on that. So there's just some things that we should be thinking about. When interest rates were low, 3 to 4%. You didn't think about it.
Yeah.
Now that they're higher, 8 to 9%, it's
real money.
It makes money. Yeah.
Well, and for guys, big time farmers like Dusty in Northwest Ohio, that kind of money's not that big a deal.
Not that
But
big a
folks
deal.
like me and you, Larry, that's a lot of money,
That's a lot of money.
right?
That's right.
Every penny counts.
And as we get ready to start harvest here, obviously agriculture is very focused on that. What are some other things on the finance end that people need to be thinking about as we start this harvest season and we manage that crop that's either in the bins or we're trying to move it out and get things ready? What else do we need to be thinking about?
Go ahead, Liz.
You threw me off. I think they need to start thinking about 2024, right? I know that it seems like 2024 is forever far away, but once harvest really kicks off, 2024 and their operating intentions need to be kind of put in the forefront, right, of that conversation to say, what is my crop rotation going to be? What are the prices going to look at? What marketing decisions do I need to make on the 2023 crop and looking at 2024 crop, right? So looking at those things, that's something that I think growers need to have kind of in the forefront, what their cropping intentions are.
Mm-hmm. And are we going to see some of these input prices stabilize a little bit? They've been up, they've come back down a little bit. Do you guys have any handle on the outlook there? And what are you hearing from the folks you're working with?
Well, we get our crystal ball out and let's figure out, exactly where it's at.
You've got a very nice crystal ball too, Larry.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So good. So good. From the things I think that we're hearing is that we are going to see fertilizer and chemical cost continue to trend down into the spring. Now, I always tell people you do the opposite of what I tell you and you'll probably be better off. So don't listen to what I'm saying, but I do believe we as we talk to the agronomy folks, we are seeing a trend downward in those things. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. And what are you most looking forward to as we work our way through Farm Science Review here? It's always fun it's a great opportunity to see folks that you don't maybe only get to see at the Farm Science Review, talk about the various issues and so forth. And the nice weather is always good too. I particularly look forward to the milkshakes too, that I get from the dairy students there. Those are delicious. But what are you guys looking forward to?
Well, I think there's a newer booth over on the other side of the grounds there with cinnamon rolls. Those are pretty good.
That warrants investigation.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Yeah. Yeah.
So food apparently is our love language.
That's right there.
We can be bought by food.
So food, definitely.
Food's good.
Yeah.
You mentioned the weather. I remember years where, you'd have one day of sunshine, you've had one day of, cold weather and then, or maybe even snow. And then you'll have one day that's kind of in between and kind of yucky, but we should have the weather covered, I think, this year.
Larry, you're not supposed to say 4-letter words like that.
I know.
Well, I'm impressed with the use of yucky. That's I don't know that we've had yucky on the podcast before. Yucky's a good one.
That does describe Farm Science Review some years, though, especially in the parking lot.
It can.
Yeah, the parking lot has been yucky. Well, thank you so much to Larry Davis and Elizabeth Long and Dusty Sonnenberg. I'm Matt Reese. Thanks all for tuning in to the Ohio AgNet Podcast.